Shri Shiman, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Siko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gralar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath, Syama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jamuna Mai Ganga Mai Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Haribo, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, Jai Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Archita Prabhu has asked us to speak on Vamana Dev. Today is the divine appearance day of Vamana. So we'll try to explain something about his divine Leela. First of all, the situation at the time, just prior to Vamana's appearance, was that the demons and the demigods were fighting very rigorously. And the demigods had preliminarily won. And Bali Maharaj, who was in charge of the demons from the Brigu dynasty, was very upset. He actually, during the battle of the demons and the demigods, was killed. But his spiritual master, Sukracharya, brought him back from the battlefield, and by mantras and yajna brought him back to life. So he asked his spiritual master that, I need to defeat this Indra and the demigods. Please, whatever it takes. So they started performing different yajnas. So many yajnas Sukracharya was prescribing. So during the performance of the yajnas, Bali went back and attacked the heavenly planets, the city of Indra. And at the time, Indra approached his spiritual master, Brihaspati, and he told him at this time it wouldn't be wise for you to keep fighting against the demons because they've become too powerful. Bali Maharaj has become too powerful. Now Bali, although he was a demon, he was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, son of Varochana. And when he occupied Indra's place, they kicked out all the demigods, they kicked out all the associates of Indra, which made one person in particular very upset. The mother of all of these great personalities was Aditi. Her husband, Kasyapa, had been away in deep meditation, austerity, and penance. But when he returned and saw his wife was very upset, and the disheveled way that the kingdom, the place had become, he inquired from his wife, "What's going on here? What can I do to help?" So ultimately she told him the story, how Bali had defeated Indra without even a fight, and that she wanted to do everything she could to restore her sons and the demigods back to their rightful position. So Kasyapa instructed her that for the next 12 days you perform the Payavrata sacrifice. Payavrata is you just drink milk and chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then something very wonderful will happen, and you'll have your wishes fulfilled. So she performed the great Payavrata sacrifice very studiously, and sure enough, at the end of the 12 days, she saw Lord Krishna. And he came to her and told her that he would take birth as her son. But wait, now is not the perfect timing. This is the theme of the demons and the demigods and the devotees, that for Indra, it was bad timing when Bali had become extremely powerful, and for Aditi, it wasn't the right time yet for Krishna to take birth and defeat the demons in due course of time. Even in our devotional service, of course, it's not always timely. One has to be very patient in the performance of devotional service, because the results aren't always immediate. So she ultimately gave birth to a son. The boy was named Upendra, but because he was very small, dwarf-like, he was also named Vamana. Vamana means dwarf. And she knew, Aditi knew, that this was going to be her desire. So, meanwhile, Bali Maharaj was still performing great sacrifices to maintain and increase his power. So much so that he was in the middle of performing the great sacrifice, what's it called? Asvamedha Yagya. And Vamana decided to go there to his Asvamedha Yagya. So upon arriving, everyone could see Vamana was shining like the sun. And everyone was amazed that this little boy was so amazingly powerful. So Bali Maharaj offered him the proper respects and washed his feet and performed all the proper guest receiving sacrifices. And then it is the custom that a Kshatriya asked the Brahmana, Vamana the Brahmana, for any benediction that they'd like. So Bali asked Vamana, you can have whatever you like. A woman in the kingdom, jewels, gold, land, whatever you would like to take. And Vamana said, I'm only interested in 3 steps of land. So he was quite surprised. This little dwarf-like boy only wanted 3 steps of land. But he granted it to him. Meanwhile, the spiritual master of Bali Maharaj, Sukracharya, who had brought him back to life, who had made him so powerful that he defeated without fight the demigods, forbade Bali Maharaj from giving these 3 steps. He was instructing, don't do it, Bali. It's Vishnu in disguise. But Bali was determined. And this is an instance in our tradition. One always follows the order of the spiritual master. The spiritual master and Krishna, they're giving the same order, and therefore one follows them very strictly. But in this case, Krishna was giving one instruction and the spiritual master was giving another. So Bali Maharaj made the choice that he would go through with his conviction to Vamana and not follow Sukracharya. This made Sukracharya extremely upset, so much so that he cursed Bali that he'd lose everything, all his wealth, everything. And This is a unique situation because in our Vaishnava tradition, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada yasya prasada nagati kutopi. We get mercy from the spiritual master, and without the blessings of the spiritual master, one cannot get the blessing of Lord Krishna. But if the spiritual master, which we have seen in history, gives instruction that is a-Krishna, that is against Krishna consciousness, if the spiritual master isn't following the predecessor spiritual masters, then one has to consult and perhaps give up that spiritual master like Bali Maharaj did. Of course, this is an extremely rare situation. One should only do it in extreme circumstance. But in Bali Maharaj's case, it was very extreme. So then Vamana began to expand and show his universal form. He got so big, he had only asked for 3 steps of land, but the first step, he took all the earthly planets. The second step, he took all the heavenly planets. There was nowhere else left to step. And at that time, Garuda came and tied up Bali Maharaj, arrested Bali Maharaj, and tied him up with the ropes of whose ropes? Varuna? Varuni. So he was arrested and he was finished. His spiritual master's curse had come through. And even his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, came and begged on his behalf. And his wife also, Vindavali, she begged on his behalf that he was just trying to fulfill your desire, Lord. And Vamana asked, where should I put my 3rd step? And of course, Bali Maharaj said, on my head. Put your next step on my head. This is the Vaishnava. That we think we have so much prowess. We think we have nice chariot, good home, kingdom, whatever our situation. But it all can be taken away in a flash. And what we really have to do is give our head Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Surrender everything. Give our head to Krishna to put his foot on. Bali Maharaj did this. And this activity gave him great blessings. Because although he could have been sent to the hellish planets, instead, he was sent to Sutala. Vamana sent him to Sutala, which was a very wonderful place. The planet, the abode Sutala. So, we learn from this story that many things. First of all, Bali Maharaj was born in the family of demons, but Prahlad Maharaj was his grandfather. So sometimes, even in our own case, we're born in a family of demons, but we're given an opportunity to become devotees. Srila Prabhupada gave us that great opportunity to become a devotee, even though, of course, Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee of Nrsingadev. But even though our relatives and associates may all be demons, I didn't have any association with anyone but demons. All my little friends in school were demons. Except in one wrestling match, our team won against Radhanath Swami's team. And he was a few pounds lighter than me. But he was there at the tournament. Future devotee. Great association. Otherwise, all demons. I never met Savasa Naikatma in Chicago. Only demons. But by the grace of our spiritual master, by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we got the opportunity to associate with saintly people, with Srila Prabhupada and the devotees of the Lord. Very saintly people who influenced our lives to the point where we could more or less give up anything. I'd come to the movement with my 19-year-old girlfriend of a year and a half. And they said, you take to the service, we're going to send you in a van, and you go and distribute books. And don't talk to this girl for 6 months. And don't think about her. Don't look at her. Don't associate with her in any way, shape, or form. So I followed the order of my temple authorities. And when I got back from traveling Sankirtan in 6 months, he called me in the office, and I was already Sura. He said, Sura, there's a lot of fish in the sea. There's a lot of grains of sand on the beach. And there's a lot of, what's that one? Something, stars in the sky. So I was like, what are you talking about? He said, understand, there's a lot of fish in the sea. There's a lot of grains of sand on the beach. And there's a lot of stars in the sky. I think he said it 3 times till I was like, what are you trying to say? And he told me, oh, so-and-so, who had also been initiated, had to leave because of different circumstances. And now you're really a brahmachari. I was acting as a brahmachari because I was going through this 6-month wait period. But now I was really a brahmachari. So Krishna consciousness is such that we can be put in any situation and Krishna will protect us and save us and ultimately see us through. But one has to be very patient and tolerant because things don't always happen immediately. And we see in the case of Lord Vamana, the demigods had been waiting for so long, they were practically homeless, kicked out of their place. But by the grace of the Lord, and with their patience and tolerance, the Lord again gave them back their place, gave Indra back his place, and made everything right. Aditi was very happy once again that her sons were taken care of and in their proper position. So we should be very careful ourselves to be tolerant and to be patient, that we may think, oh, such and such should happen immediately, and if it doesn't, I'm not engaging in devotional service. No. One has to be tolerant and patient. What's that verse in the I forget exactly. But one has to tolerate patience and tolerance. And in this way, one will be ultimately blessed by the Lord in so many ways. in so many ways. So today is also the appearance of Jiva Goswami. Do you have a book there on? You don't have it? I couldn't find my book. It's at home? Somebody at home, bring it over. We're almost out of time anyway. Is there anything you'd like to say, Naikama, about Jiva Goswami? Does someone have a mic? Naikama is becoming the expert on all the Goswamis and Radha Leela, and it's amazing.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class, especially your early realizations about becoming detached and from there becoming fixed in your service. It's a good example for all of us. But you mentioned Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami was instrumental with Shamananda and Srinivas in establishing the preaching movement. They took instructions from his uncles, Rupa and Sanatan, to focus on producing the Vedic literatures like the Satsandarbhas, which are a real pillar for us understanding the process of bhakti yoga and devotional service. So he's a very stalwart and important personality in our line. Srila Prabhupada called him the greatest scholar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jiva Goswami ki jai.
Jiva Goswami ki jai. There's one interesting point. When I was researching on the internet for the database about the pastimes of Vamana Deva in the Bhagavatam, where it appears in all the chapters, there was a lecture that was given by a Puma Chaitanya Swami, who didn't really look like a Hare Krishna. But I listened to a little bit of what he had to say, because he was from the Netherlands and was talking very interestingly and had 50,000 followers, 39,000 followers. The fascinating thing, I read all the chapters again of Bali Maharaj and Vamana Deva. And then I saw this lecturer, and as I listened to him, he recited everything point by point by point from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I looked, who is this guy? And it turned out, you'll be happy to know, he's a sannyasi in the Sri Sri Ravi Shankar line. And obviously, they all have Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam. Because everything he said was just out of Prabhupada's books. And I was pretty amazed that here's someone from a different camp, and actually a Mayavadi camp, but they're giving the story directly, point for point. So many details from Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam and purports. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.